And we have a go for auto sequence start. Discovery's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. Start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Welcome to the Launchpad. I'm your host, Harry Washington. And those who are new to the show is sponsored by Pursue a Dream Corporation. Pursue a Dream Corporation is a nonprofit organization that encourages students to pursue degrees and careers in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. Today's show is going to focus on trends in education. And our first guest is Mr. Marcus Carter of NOBCChe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, tell us a little bit about NOBCChe. What is its purpose?
Okay, so NOBCChe, like any organization, has sort of two main goals.
Okay.
So the first, anytime you meet someone, they sort of introduce themselves. And then the second purpose of NOBCChe is for assistance. So the introduction. So they work with students from elementary to graduate college, or from high school to college as well. So for the elementary school, they're introducing them to science, getting them involved and sort of sparking interest. For graduate students and college students in high school as well, they want them to provide assistance or support for their dreams or in their path to pursue careers in science.
Okay. And when we say high school, are we saying 9th through 12, or is it a particular grade?
Yeah, so it's just an overall sort of introduction to the group as well as science.
Okay. No, I mean, what grades? I mean, are we looking at 9th through 12th grade, or just?
Yeah, entire high school.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, give us a brief history about NOBCChe.
So NOBCChe was founded just the way other groups were founded as well.
Okay.
A couple of experts came together and decided there was a need.
Okay.
And so essentially these experts were about seven people, 6 professors and 1 chancellor from various universities such as Howard, MIT, and things like that. And so they saw that there was a need for minorities and people that weren't represented to have a model to follow or follow along on a path.
And is it particularly African Americans, or is it all minority groups?
So it was started for black individuals, but now it's open to any individual that needs information and assistance.
Now, what interests you in NOBCChe?
So what I understand is looking ahead, I know there's going to be certain challenges.
Okay.
Right now there's no path to, after I get out of the PhD program, to position to another position or have another goal. So what I'm trying to do is talk to people so they can tell me the challenges ahead that I don't see, and be able to inspire me or redirect me to change my perspective in order to succeed.
Excellent, excellent. Is your background, do you have a background in science or engineering?
Okay, so one of the questions that you ask is what got me interested. So there's not one particular moment that got me interested in science.
Okay.
I graduated from a science and tech high school in Maryland. My bachelor's degree is in science. The major thing that has kept me pursuing chemistry or science in general has been research experience for undergraduates. So it's the REU programs held at different colleges.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm in the PhD program and why I'm here today.
And your particular focus is research?
Yes.
And that's sort of a trend that a lot of African Americans don't pursue. Why do you think that happens?
So really, I'm not really interested in minorities per se. I'm interested in people that are skilled and talented and have an interest that come up to this new stage, either as scientists or entering grad school, and they don't have any information of where to go next. They're sort of their own trailblazers. And doing that method, it'll be very difficult to sort of succeed on your own. So you need information. That's the most valuable thing. Because my parents never, pursued a higher education. So the most people I meet now that are in grad school, their parents have a PhD or a master's. So I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have the support that they have to accomplish things, especially when they, sort of get stuck or run out of ideas or what to do.
I got you. Now, and what interests you in science? Because you say you attended a science STEM high school.
Yep.
What particularly interests you in science?
If you look at technology is getting much smaller and also more powerful.
Yes.
So if I have the ability to enter the conversation, to control or think about how these things should be used, to me that's brilliant. That's something to be achieved.
Okay.
And so that's what I feel my interest in science.
Okay. And again, this is a growing trend in terms of NOBCChe trying to get more African Americans involved with chemistry as well as chemical engineering.
Yes.
Excellent organization in terms of what you're doing. It's great to have you on the show. Any final words?
So initially when I started to think about pursuing a PhD, I thought that I was not smart enough.
Okay.
And so what I entered another program called McNair Post-Baccalaureate Achievement Program at the University of Maryland. Sort of gave me the confidence that I needed to pursue a PhD. Okay. So even if you have that interest and you don't want to take the next step, I would sort of, I guess, try to persuade you that you can do it. You just have to work at it and be determined.
Because you're saying persuade that you guys do outreach in the community to students?
Yes,
okay.
That's one of the goals. Right now we're kind of a small organization. So with greater members, we have a greater outreach. So right now we're trying to sort of reconfigure ourselves.
How do our viewers learn about your organization? More about your organization.
So NOBCChe has a website, nobcche.org, and University of Maryland has it's called AARP Services, okay. Where they can look up the McNair program as well. So these are two sort of key informations that you can sort of find if you're trying to pursue the next step and you don't have support or assistance.
Oh, cool. We'd like to thank our guests. We'll be back. Welcome back to Launchpad. I'm your host, Harry Washington. And remember, today's show is focused on trends in education. And one of the organizations that is setting trends is the Society for the Advancement of Hispanics, or Chicanos and Native Americans in Science. And joining us is Ms. Maria Perez. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, tell our viewers, what is the mission and purpose of SACNAS?
Well, SACNAS, the main purpose is to support minority students and professionals to advance in their careers. We do it through different types of programs. Okay. Some of them are mentoring, some of them are peer modeling.
Okay. Now, what's the typical population that you focus on? Is it college students? Is it professionals? Where's your emphasis?
Everything depends on the chapters because
okay.
we are a national organization,
okay.
and across the country we have chapters. Some chapters are formed in universities, so that will be for students, undergraduate students, as well as graduate students,
okay.
and even postdocs, postdoctoral researchers.
Okay.
And in some more professional environment, we have the chapters too, such as NIH. NIH has a SACNAS chapter.
Oh, excellent. Now, how many members do you have in your particular chapter?
In our chapter, University of Maryland, we are around like 10 people.
Okay.
And 10 undergraduate students,
okay.
and 5 graduate students.
Now, what led to the formation of SACNAS?
Well, the national organization was founded like around 40 years ago.
Okay.
And it was because a group of Native Americans and Mexican Americans
okay.
got together in a national organization, a science national organization.
Okay.
And they noticed that there were few of them. And so they decided to start promoting more minorities in the science field.
Right.
That's how it started.
Just in your opinion, why do you think there's not as many Latinos or Native Americans in fields related to science?
Nowadays?
Yes, yes.
That's a difficult question. I actually have been asking myself, why is that? And I think it's lack of confidence and lack of information. It's more or less like a cultural barrier.
Okay.
And due to the lack of confidence.
Now, what kind of programs that, in terms of the SACNAS offer that focus on like initiatives? Programs that are outcome-based. What do you offer?
At University of Maryland, what we are offering is a mentoring circle.
Okay.
What we are doing right now is actually having graduate students helping undergraduate students to progress in the school. So what we are doing is supporting them, tell them what they need to do to get better grades, what is ahead of them once they graduated, how to apply to grad school. So depending on the chapter, there are different activities. That's one of the things that we are doing. But I'm aware that other chapters are actually doing the mentoring program, as well as networking, networking events. So it's very important nowadays.
How often does your chapter host events?
We try to meet monthly. just to gather together and talk and share what is happening lately, what are the challenges that we're having in school, or even life challenges as well.
Okay.
So we meet monthly, and major events maybe every 3 months.
Okay.
Everything depends of what we think we need to offer to our students.
And do you do any outreach in the schools? Do you go to the local high schools, elementary schools?
We are trying to partner with NIH to actually do that, but we haven't started it yet because we would love to actually motivate high school students to do it, but we haven't started it yet.
But have you had any high school students maybe take initiative to contact you just to be part of it, or no?
No.
Not at all?
No, we haven't, but we love to have actually that contact.
Now, what influenced your interest in SACNAS?
Well, as a minority, and having not that maybe feel back then when I was an undergrad, I was full of lack of confidence per se, and I wasn't sure how to proceed to the next level. Okay. And everything was because of lack of information. Yes. So once I started grad school and I knew that there was a SACNAS chapter, I decided to join and said, well, let me provide that information to those who don't know what are the opportunities that are there, and empowering them, give them that confidence so they can move on. That's the reason why.
Do you know of, just in terms of just this general area, are there any other organizations similar to SACNAS that you guys work with?
In the university, we're trying to partner with UNICEF. Okay. So we can actually promote more about the education part. Okay. Okay. So far, that's the only one.
How can viewers learn more about your organization?
Well, the main source of information will be the internet, will be SACNAS.org. Okay. They can directly contact our chapter at UMD SACNAS at gmail.com.
Now, and I guess my last question is, how can individuals who want to support your cause, what can they do?
Oh, wait, definitely. Best part will be email me so I can give them more details about how they can participate in different programs that we are doing.
Well, any final words you have for our viewers?
Just believe in yourself and be strong. Try to see the problems not as a problems but as a challenges.
I'd like to thank our guest, I'm sorry, I said ghost, but our guest, Ms. Maria Perez. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Launchpad. I'm your host, Harry Washington. And again, we're talking about trends in education, and keeping with that topic, we have Dr. Frank Portugal of Catholic University. Welcome to the show, Dr. Portugal.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, give our audience a little bit of your professional background.
Well, I did my undergraduate work in New York City and have a degree actually in pharmacy. Okay. But never got licensed and decided to go to graduate school. So I went to graduate school in Chicago. Okay. And then I came to this area because after graduate school, you generally require a little bit more training to become an independent investigator. And so I came to the National Institutes of Health and was there for a couple of years to get more training.
Okay. And how long have you worked at Catholic University?
Well, I came to Catholic University in January of 2010. Okay. I had previously been at the University of Maryland University College, where I taught both online and to graduate students and in regular classrooms down to graduates.
Okay. And how many years experience would you say you have in academia?
In academia, probably about 15 or more.
Wow. In terms of being the associate director, associate professor of biology and director of the Biotechnology Program, how long have you been in that capacity?
Again, I was in that capacity from the time I started at Catholic, which was January of 2010.
Now, give our viewers an idea. What does the program, the biotechnology program, entail at Catholic University?
Well, let me first say, what is biotechnology?
Yes,
because many people may not be familiar with that. So biotechnology is sort of interesting. It's a more dynamic and challenging part of biology. Okay. What we do is we both do the research, but also the translation of research. How can we take that research and turn it into something that would be useful for people? So we're talking about products such as a diagnostic or a service of some sort. A drug would be a diagnostic, or a drug would be 2 examples. So when you go into a biotech program, you not only learn just about science, but you also have to learn, well, how do you make the judgment about what should be potentially a product or a service, or what shouldn't be. And so you have to learn a bit about the business side of things. And so you get training in both the science and the business. So our program, which started in 2010, sort of stresses that. Normally it takes about 2 years to get a master's degree, but you can do it in about 1.5 years if you want to do it on an accelerated basis. The other thing is that you don't have to be a full-time student. We have students who go part-time. Some of the courses are in the evening, a few are during the day. But as a part-time student, that permits them to work full-time during the day.
And in terms of students going into your program, how should they prepare themselves to go into a master's program in biotechnology?
Well, obviously they need to be an undergraduate. They need to graduate from a college or a university as undergraduates. Ideally, they need to have some biology, some chemistry, some biochemistry in their background. And then they simply contact us. There's a university has a website, which is www.cua, Charlie under Apple, CUA.edu. And there they can find out, they can apply online, and it gives you a list of all the documents like your undergraduate transcripts, 3 recommendations. If you're a international student, you need to show capability of English proficiency, and all the directions there.
Are there any kind of retention programs for students who enter the biotechnology program? Those who may have difficulty while in the program, is there any services to help them? That what the university offers?
Well, that's a good question. There are certainly informal services. Students in the master's program can identify students in the department who are in the PhD program and ask them for assistance in tutoring. Now, sometimes that might be just a student devoting their time, and sometimes there might be some charge for that. Also, the biology department, which the biotech program is part of, is a small department, but the faculty are all very much involved in teaching and very anxious to see students that we take in be successful. And so we certainly spend perhaps more time than might be true at a traditional university, because we have a smaller group. And we are a smaller department, and so we can do a lot more with individual students. So so for example, if a student is having difficulty in the one class that I teach, one course that I teach, I'll tell them to come and we can talk about it. If there are several students like that, we'll form a lunchtime group. So we try to do different things informally to help students so that they're, my attitude is that learning should be challenging, it should stretch your mind, but I don't want students going home at night and crying or worrying about how they're going to pass a course. That's sort of the approach we take.
I mean, give us an idea. Typically, what does a test look like in a biotechnology field?
Well, you know, tests are created individually by professors. So I can tell you what I do, but it may be a little bit different than what other people do. First of all, I'm conscious of the fact that students react to different types of questions differently. So if I give an exam which is all multiple choice, it's going to be a disadvantage to students who have difficulty, such as myself, with a multiple choice question, because usually you have 4 or 5 choices, and I can always find 2 that I think are right. So what I try to do in my test is I try to create a balance. I'll have, say, 20 questions. I'll have 5 that are multiple choice, 5 true false, 5 fill in the blank, so that I'm not really biasing the exam toward a student who has a particular skill in one type of question but not in another.
Gotcha.
Sometimes, because a number of students that I have in my program actually are international students,
Okay.
I often give a take-home exam.
Okay.
And so the take-home exam would give students perhaps 3 days.
Oh, wow.
To answer a series of questions, but then they're not necessarily short questions. They may involve a bit more writing.
Gotcha.
Some of the questions they can possibly find in a textbook.
Okay.
Some of the questions they can possibly answer from the internet.
Okay.
And some of the questions they actually have to think and have to answer. So which, again, doing that, again, is to strike a balance. I try to identify where students have strengths.
Okay.
And then where they have weaknesses, and then it's the weaknesses I want to help them with.
Excellent.
So that they become stronger.
Now, what are the two interests of the research lab?
Well, the primary interest that we're doing, and I do research actually, so the primary research interest I currently have, even though I'm in biotechnology, which is a very new field, I've actually gone back to study bacteria, which is a very old field. And we're particularly interested in human pathogens and how they grow, what enables them to grow, what can stop their growth. So we're sort of looking for alternatives to antibiotics because we've probably heard and read that as we have more exposure to bacteria and we have more treatment with antibiotics, the bacteria become resistant. They don't react well anymore. And so we need new ways of doing it. So one of the bacteria that I work with, first of all, the bacteria I work with can either make people sick or can kill them. And one of them is an organism called Staphylococcus aureus, which is actually a big problem, for example, in the National Football League because it's very prevalent in locker rooms. And so people come in, they're perfectly healthy. Someone has this, it spreads. 400,000 people get infected with this organism in this country every year.
Wow.
20,000 of them die from it.
Wow.
So there's a real need. So we're very interested in trying to help with that particular problem. And then I've done something, and my second project is quite different. It's a bioengineering project where we're trying to detect how biological materials act with each other. The problem is that they're so small that we can't see them. And so how do we know that they've interacted? And so we've invented a device called a biosensor. So a biosensor is any type of device that can sense these interactions and create a signal that a human would understand.
Excellent.
And so in our particular case, we use lasers and optical fiber, and we get either a signal, a peak on a device called an oscilloscope, or we simply get a digital readout, a number. But that will tell us if there's been a reaction.
Now, just going off path for a minute, a lot of movies will talk about the biotechnology field. Is it exciting as they build in the movies?
Well, it is. I mean, biotechnology has a number of components which are very, very cutting edge. Just two examples. One is a thing called cloning. Cloning is where we take DNA from an organism and use it to create an organism which is an identical copy of the first organism. So that's an example of cloning. And then we have another area called stem cells. So stem cells are sort of very primitive cells which exist in our body, which can be turned in a laboratory and possibly in the body, can be turned into any other type of cell. So if you need some extra nerve cells for the brain, stem cells can be turned into nerve cells. If you have diabetes and you may need some cells, additional cells for your pancreas, the stem cells could be turned into pancreatic cells to help make insulin to help diabetes.
What's the average length of completion for a master's program? You said 2 years, but do most students, in your opinion, actually complete it for 2 years or longer?
Well, again, the average is 2 years. We've had a few students who do it in 1.5 years to cut down on the cost. And then we've had students, if students are going part-time, where they can only take 1 or 2 classes a semester, then of course they can take 3 or 4 years, but at the same time they're working full time to enable them to cover the cost of their tuition.
Right. What percentage of minorities are in the biotechnology program?
Well, again, if we identify minorities as African Americans, I would say about 10% are in the biotech program. I would say 90% of them are women.
Oh, wow!
So it's a very large proportion of women, and then a small percentage of the minorities. We would like to see more minorities apply, to be honest with you.
Why do you feel that's been the issue? Why haven't minorities been as successful in coming to Catholic and being a part of this program? And what do you think the issue is?
Well, for example, there's probably many answers to that, but for example, I was talking to one of your prior guests, Marcus, who's a PhD student. He knows a number of universities in Washington. He knew American University, which is very typical. He knew American, GW, Georgetown, but he had never heard of Catholic University. So we think of Catholic University as this wonderful, first of all, it's more than 125 years old. It's on a beautiful 200-acre campus in the middle of Washington, D.C., a few minutes from Union Station on the Red Line. But we find that it isn't a name which is well known. So I think in part, I would hope that a program like this, for example, would make it better known. And what I would suggest is I would encourage listeners to contact the university. They have a website. If they go to www.cua.edu, they can find an opportunity to arrange a visit and a tour of the university, to find out more about it, to find out about our program or other programs that the university offers.
Now, what career fields are there for biotechnology, people who enter the field of biotechnology?
Well, I think biotechnology actually offers more opportunities than, say, a strict biology program. Because first of all, in biotechnology, you're going to get a variety of different scientific disciplines. You'll get immunology, you get genetics, you get cell biology, you get biochemistry. So you get a lot of diversity, which enables you to go in different directions. You can work for a biotech company. You could work on the business side of biotech. You don't have to work in a laboratory. There are, for example, associations, whether they're health associations like the American Diabetes Association, who need to communicate advances or helpful hints to people who have, say, the disease or the disorder. But they don't necessarily have the background to understand the science that's coming out that could help patients. And so they need someone to sort of serve as a bridge between the science and the lay people. And so someone with a biotechnology background can serve that capacity very well. They can work for government agencies. They can work for all sorts of associations. And Washington, because we're so close to Congress, many organizations have their headquarters here because they want to be close to Congress. They want to be able to go up to Capitol Hill and to exert some influence there. And so there is a tremendous number of opportunities for people coming out in biotech to participate in a number of those associations. The other thing to keep in mind is that here in Maryland, we have the 4th largest biotech sector in the country. So again, there are major companies like a company called MedImmune, which has employment opportunities, and many other smaller companies which are here as well.
Excellent. Any final words, Dr. Portugal?
No, I think you've certainly covered all the bases. I would just encourage students to learn a little bit more about Catholic University by going to their website, and to learn a little bit more about biotechnology by going to our website, which is simply Biotechnology, and that's BIOTECHNOLOGY, biotechnology.CUA, Charlie under Apple, .edu.
Excellent. We'd like to thank all our guests. I'm sorry, there I go, ghosts again. We'd like to thank all of our guests that appeared on the show. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.